Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of VitalityOET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether it be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or that weight gain around the middle that seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere despite you not changing anything. So you go back to those tried and true methods of cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet nothing seems to be working. In fact, it feels like you're putting in all this effort only to be moving backwards. But we know now that your body is inherently different now that you've gone through these hormonal changes. So our mission here at Vitality is to help you really understand how to take care of this new body of yours, to understand what changes, to be in control and at home in your body again, and live a life full of vitality so you can finally reach those health and fitness goals. So today I have a great topic. It's one that's been coming up a ton in conversations, and we're talking all about hot flashes today. In fact, we're going to cover the 6 ways to really reduce those for you. And it's crazy because that there isn't more support and knowledge around this, because more than 80% of women experience hot flashes and or night sweats during perimenopause and menopause. I, in fact, used to get hot flashes and night sweats, but I thought it was just because I ran hot. I was like, I'm a person who tends to run hot. No, I used to get hot flashes and night sweats in my 20s. Because I was dealing with hormonal issues. And it's because I had tanked my progesterone and estrogen because I've been doing some crazy low-calorie diets, doing insane amounts of cardio. I wasn't having enough carbohydrates. I was doing just so much stuff and under so much stress and trauma from childhood, and then my mom going through cancer treatments and just so many things that I didn't realize that I was actually having hot flashes and night sweats. I wasn't just running warm. Like, I would wake up to my bed being wet. Like, my pajamas would be wet. Like, it was gross. I felt sticky. It was something I was always very insecure of. And I had no idea that it was because this is what was happening hormonally to me. I was so naive to the fact that this could happen at such a young age. So I didn't figure that out till years later when I started looking backwards and connecting the dots and realizing, oh my gosh, I had messed myself up so badly. So let's talk about hot flashes and you. This is what we are here for, right? So I want to explain what a hot flash is and what brings them on. Then we're going to talk about what causes them, how you can fix them, all that kind of stuff. So typically, our core body temperature is going to be between 95.5 and 99.9 Fahrenheit. And it isn't really supposed to vary that much day to day. We're pretty consistent with what our body temperature is. And then we have this wonderful thing in our brain called hypothalamus, and it senses our core temperature. And if it's too hot, it's going to send the signal to our body to cool down by dilating blood vessels, so it makes them wider to increase blood flow. And that's going to trigger our sweat glands to start to sweat in order to cool us down. That's how that works. If our core temperature drops too low, then our blood vessels will constrict, so they'll get smaller, which decreases our blood flow to our limbs. And then we'll find that we start to shiver and to shake in an attempt to warm up. This is what our body does for survival. This is supposed to happen. This is a good thing. And there are so many things that can really shift our body's ideal temperature up or down, both internally and externally, which can cause our hypothalamus and our brain to then signal to our body whether to sweat or to shiver. And you guessed it, hormones are just one of those wonderful factors that are going to affect this. So estrogen, of course, we always talk about her, right? Estrogen actually binds to receptors in the hypothalamus, which decreases the response our hypothalamus has to small shifts in body temperature. So we don't see, if we have the heat increase a little bit, we're not naturally all of a sudden going to start sweating. If we drop a little bit cooler, we're not going to start shivering right away. But when estrogen starts to go down, because we're passing that reproductive prime, our follicles are dying off and weakening, our estrogen levels start to decline, in those years that follow as well, right? Our hypothalamus now becomes much more sensitive to changes in body temperature than it was before, which is why we are more likely to see hot flashes and that we get them more often. And they become much more intense as well. So now we only need like a slight change in temperature that are going to trigger that hot flash and that sweating, which we never really struggled with before. So that sucks, Steph, right? Like estrogen is going to go down and maybe HRT isn't an option for you. Does that mean I'm screwed? I'm just stuck with hot flashes forever? No, there are lots of things that you can do. So anything that's going to help support our estrogen production or avoid changes or things that naturally like increase our body temperature are going to be help. So for some women, like I mentioned, bioidentical estrogen helps. However, there are many women who can't take estrogen due to estrogenic cancers. It's estimated over 2 million per year, which is crazy. So that's a lot of women that can't take it, right? Or they have adverse side effects from taking it. Like I know some women just cannot take it. Their body does not tolerate it well. They get a bunch of side effects, which is not fun. Or they simply prefer not to take hormone therapy. And that is totally fine. So that is one of many options that you can do to help support your estrogen levels, right? That's not the only way. Number 2, increase your intake of estrogen supportive foods. So these are going to be things that are high in like phytoestrogens, vitamin B, and magnesium. We typically recommend that most women supplement with vitamin B complex and a magnesium as well anyways, because these are very important for hormone production pathways. They are important for providing energy. Magnesium helps so much for sleep. So if you're taking a vitamin B complex, make sure you take it in the morning. I take a vitamin B50 myself. It helps with hormone production pathways. It helps with energy. So if you take it at nighttime, it can actually prevent you from falling asleep. And then taking magnesium glycinate or beglycinate at nighttime can help so much with full body relaxation, lowering those cortisol levels. And we know if cortisol goes down, it's easier for hormone production to happen, and just help you with your sleep, energy, feeling relaxed in general. Or you can have foods that are high in those areas as well. Number 3, you want to try and limit your caffeine. This one is always a tough one to have with people, right? Because we love our coffee. So if you're having caffeine, make sure you're not having it on an empty stomach, because we want to help support our cortisol levels as best as we can. So we're not seeing a giant spike and then a reduction in our hormone production, which again is going to then impact our hot flashes, but also we know that caffeine is going to raise your internal body temperature, and it's going to negatively affect your estrogen production because of the cortisol levels. So that can actually trigger hot flashes as well. So that is something just to keep in mind. And remember that caffeine doesn't come just from coffee. It's coming from sodas. It comes from chocolate. So like be aware of where your caffeine intake is coming from. If you're struggling a lot with hot flashes, this is something to recommend. I'm not saying you have to do it. This is just one of a few different options that you can do to help you with your hot flashes and night sweats. Number 4 is limiting alcohol. So this is always a tough conversation too. I did a whole podcast on alcohol that you can go back and listen to that covers so many things, but alcohol does increase your blood flow and it's going to increase your body temperature. And we know from many women, like many women in our program, that they were good. They were fine. Alcohol was never an issue. And now when they have it, it's like they can't sleep. They get hot flashes. They get night sweats. You're going to see the scale increase for up to 3 or 4 days post drinking to compensate for the dehydration. You get a bump in your bloating and fluid retention for a few days after drinking, even if it's only 1 or 2 cups of wine, right? It doesn't have to be a ton. It's not a bender. It's just having a drink. It's only 2 to 3 drinks a week where we see this start to happen. We also see that there's a conversion of like hormones. We also start to see that you're working a lot on your liver. So like your liver detox systems don't work as well, which can also lead to more hormonal issues. It's going to increase your resting rate of cortisol levels as well. So if you're having alcohol like 2 to 3 drinks a week, we see your resting cortisol levels are going to be higher. And we know when cortisol is high, we're going to see estrogen take a hit, progesterone take a hit, testosterone take a hit, our blood sugars are going to increase. We're going to see that our thyroid takes a hit, so our metabolism slows down, making it harder to burn calories naturally. Your body's just not good at burning calories, making weight loss harder. You're going to see that your gut health takes a hit, more bloating, more food sensitivities, more leaky gut, more constipation or diarrhea. And we're also going to see, again, like I mentioned, the liver. So take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to cut out all alcohol, but if you are someone who is struggling with hot flashes, it is something to consider investigating and trying it out for a few weeks and see how you do with decreasing your intake or removing it completely. The next one is de-stressing. So like I just mentioned, cortisol is going to increase your body temperature, that stress hormone I just talked about with alcohol, right? And it's going to affect your estrogen levels as well. So how do we ensure that we are, supporting our cortisol levels as best as we can and de-stressing our body, taking the amount of stress that our body is going through and removing what we can. So we can't always take ourselves out of stressful situations. That doesn't happen, right? Like we can't remove all stress from our life. That's not realistic. So we need to learn to buffer that stress response through other means. This is going to be by making sure you're eating enough food. If you're eating too low calorie, your stress response is going to go up and negatively impact your hormones, your blood sugar control, your thyroid, all the things that we already mentioned. If you don't know how much food you should be eating, message me. I'm always more than happy to calculate that for you. No strings attached. This is what I love to do. I just love to help you. Okay? No strings attached. Number 2, you need to make sure you're eating enough carbohydrates. Carbs help lower your cortisol levels. So if you're eating a really low carb diet, cortisol levels are going to be higher. We're also going to see a decrease in our muscle mass, more hormonal symptoms like your hot flashes and night sweats. So eating enough carbs to counteract your stress is really important, especially if you're someone who exercises a lot and you're not sleeping well, you need more carbs. Adjusting your exercise. Sometimes less is more. We have women coming into the program who are struggling with a lot of things, struggling with hot flashes, struggling with their weight. They're working out 6 days a week. We actually tailor it back to 3 and they start seeing their muscles are growing again. They're feeling great. They're sleeping awesome. They're not having the hot flashes. So learning what that looks like for you and then, focus on your self-care. And this doesn't mean you have to book a massage or you have to have a bubble bath. Maybe it's coloring. It's something that brings your heart rate down, your breathing down, that fills up your cup, that you feel good after. So maybe it's reading, maybe it's writing and journaling, maybe it's coloring, maybe it's knitting or crocheting or baking. Like, what are the things that genuinely bring you joy? For me, it's just being outside. We have worked our backyard slowly into a place that we can escape to. So I don't feel like I have to try and search somewhere else, right? It's this place where I can sit. We have our gazebo up. We have my little wicker eggy chair, as I like to call it. And I can sit there and read or even do some work stuff. And I just feel so good being outside and in the sun. We have twinkle lights. We have a fire table. It is just my own little piece of heaven here on earth. I just get to relax and put my feet in the grass. And it is so calming and so good. So it doesn't mean that you have to take hours out of your day and do all these self-care appointments. It's how can I buffer stress through lifestyle and nutrition changes to really set myself up for success, to improve the symptoms that I'm experiencing, which are then going to make it easier to lose weight. Because if you're experiencing all these symptoms, that's your body telling you things are not in a good place right now. And it's crazy how much better women feel when they're eating enough food, eating enough carbs. They are adjusting their exercise and just taking a little bit of time to fill up their cup in a day is amazing what it'll do for you. This is the one that everyone should be doing because even if you're on HRT and stuff like that, the issues with the high cortisol are still going on underneath. And then if you're not addressing it, it's still going to make weight loss challenging and all those other things that you're struggling with. So this is something that cannot go unchecked. If you need help figuring out what that looks like for you, again, book a consultation call. This is exactly what they are used for calculating your calories. Are you eating enough food? Assessing where you're at. We're going to ask you a bajillion questions. So this isn't just asking your age, height, weight, and activity levels. We're going to ask you a lot. because we need to know where is your body at right now based on everything leading up to this point, so we can give you the best guidelines moving forward in terms of calories and what food options should kind of look like. How are you creating your meals? The structure of those. Are we adjusting your exercise? Is it too much? Is it too little? What are the factors that we can change to move the needle to really help you with your symptoms, but also get you to a place where your body's going to respond and actually want to lose weight for you? And then number 6 for improving your hot flashes is controlling blood sugar. So this is not cutting carbs. I'm going to say this right now. To improve your blood sugars, you do not have to cut out carbohydrates. We have helped so many women who were on keto who then gave themselves insulin resistance because their body was not used to eating carbohydrates, right? And it just wasn't sustainable. They had terrible energy. It worked until they hit perimenopause and then it stopped working. So what we see, like I mentioned before, is carbs help regulate our cortisol levels, right? That stress response. We know when that stress response is high, we have all this crazy crap that happens in our body. So we are not cutting out carbs to regulate our blood sugars. We don't do that here. We have helped so many women improve this by increasing their carbohydrates, by making sure they're eating enough food. They've actually seen huge changes in their labs. They feel better. They're seeing changes. So this is not cutting carbs. This is not fasting. Okay. Just going to put that out there right now. So we know that when we see spikes in our blood sugar, we're going to see issues with hot flashes. Like blood sugar is always something that we talk about because it is really important. And we need to be aware that when estrogen goes down, yes, we're going to have a higher instance of being able to have hot flashes, but also our ability to regulate blood sugars goes down. So it's a lot easier to see a spike in our blood sugars now. So how are we going to combat this? How are we going to improve your blood sugars so that you're not having hot flashes, but still being able to incorporate carbs? This always seems like a bizarre concept for people, right? So step number 1 is to have 20 to 30 grams of protein at every meal. Protein is going to help slow the emptying of your stomach. It'll keep you full longer, so you're not having energy crashes and having cravings for those sweets, which are then going to spike your blood sugars and lead to hot flashes, right? But it's going to help you keep full longer, and it's going to avoid those blood sugar spikes. So having 20 to 30 grams of protein at each meal is so important. Okay, we're having a meal like every 4 hours that doesn't include snacks. So a big balanced meal every 4 hours. When we are eating, order of how you eat really matters. So eat your veggies and protein first and then your carbs. If you have a sandwich, you're obviously not going to break apart the sandwich because that ruins the essence of the meal. So what I'd recommend is maybe you're having a bit of beef jerky before, right? Maybe you're having some veggies and dip before, and then you're having your sandwich. Maybe then you're having your pasta. If you're having a carb-heavy meal, like if it's meat, potatoes, and veggies, eat a good chunk of your veggies and meat first before dipping into your potatoes. If you are having a bowl of pasta, have a starter salad first. And then make sure that your pasta has a lot of meat in it, right? A lot of protein, whatever that looks like for you. Or maybe you're choosing a higher protein pasta. Like I personally love the chickpea brand. That's my favorite one. I find the texture is the best compared to other ones that I've tried. But you can play around and see what works best for you. But again, what that does, that order of eating, helps slow the emptying of your stomach, and it helps avoid the blood sugar spikes and drops so you're not having the hot flashes. Plus, it'll help you with your weight as well. The next one is just a good rule of thumb is no naked carbs. So you're never having a carbohydrate on its own, even fruit. So if you want to have a carb, ask yourself, what can I add to this to make it more balanced with either fat or protein? So, okay, if I'm having fruit, I should probably have a yogurt cup with this. Maybe I'm having some peanut butter with my apple, which is probably what I'm going to have for a snack now that I've mentioned this, because I did buy apples yesterday. Even if you want like some Oreos, what can I have with this so I'm not going to have a blood sugar spike? Maybe it's having some cheese and nuts, and then I'm having my Oreos, right? Like it's a learning, how can I add to this carbohydrate to make it more balanced? Because you still need carbs for energy. You still need carbs to bring those cortisol levels down. You still need carbs to improve your thyroid function, which controls your metabolism and how many calories you burn at rest. You still need carbohydrates. So what can I add to this that's going to help level out that blood sugar response by making it more balanced? Another thing that you can do is walking after meals, 5 to 10 minutes. Super simple. This helps avoid that blood sugar spike and drop, so you're not going to see those hot flashes. Amazing. And then also post-workout carbs is so good for you. After you work out, have a post-workout carb and protein because you don't need to use insulin to help shuttle those sugars into your muscles because you activate these things called GLUT4s, which I like to call your little doggy doors. They flip open and then sugar can just go into the muscle cell. You don't have to use insulin. So you're not seeing this huge spike in blood sugar because it's naturally getting shuttled into your muscles. So having carbohydrates after you work out is a great time to replenish those stores without worrying about your blood sugar spiking. So controlling blood sugars and hot flashes go hand in hand very much. So those are always the questions that I'm asking. Like when someone's dealing with hot flashes, I'm checking, are they having estrogen supportive foods in their diet, or are they supplementing with vitamin B and magnesium? How much coffee are they having in a day? How much caffeine? How much alcohol are they having in a week? And how often, right? Are they doing things to buffer stress through proper nutrition by eating enough, having enough carbohydrates, by adjusting their exercise, by prioritizing sleep, by doing self-care, by not skipping meals, by not having coffee on an empty stomach? Those are all things that I'm looking at. And then, of course, I'm looking at their blood sugar response. Are they having enough protein in their diet? Are they eating often enough? Are they having, what's the order that they're eating their food in? Are they having carbs on their own, or are they always pairing it with something? Are they walking after meals? Are they balancing those meals? Are they having carbs after they work out? These are all questions that I'm asking. So it's not just one single thing. Yes, having the lower estrogen levels is going to make your body more sensitive to body temperature changes, but what's causing the body temperature changes? How can we improve that and support your estrogen levels so that your body is not going to be experiencing these as much? And how do we support estrogen levels? Is through all the things that I just mentioned, right? Reducing stress on your body is going to be number one every time, no matter what, and regulating those blood sugars. Okay, those are the two things that if you focus on those two things, you will be amazed at how much better you will feel, and you're not cutting out carbs. Repeat after me. Carbs are not bad. Carbs will not make me fat. Very, very important for everyone to really understand. So I hope this was helpful for you and that helps you understand why you're struggling with hot flashes, and you can kind of pinpoint likely which areas you're struggling with. Again, if you need help figuring out how much you should be eating, if you're getting enough protein, if you're getting enough carbohydrates, if the workout intensity is actually appropriate for you or not, just message me or book a consultation call. It's always the best way to get a hold of us. Do that. We will help you figure all of that out. Make sure you leave the call feeling confident with what you have to do next. No strings attached. We will never bring up coaching unless you want to talk about it. That is not the intention of the call. The intention of the call is just to help as many women as we possibly can, because it should not be this freaking hard to learn to understand what is happening in your body and how to take care of yourself so you can get to wherever you want to be. That is the goal. That is the mission. So if you want help with that, just message or book a consultation call. That's exactly what we are here for. Don't forget to share this with anyone else that you know that's dealing with hot flashes. Love you all so much. Bye.